What's up everybody? On today's video, I'm gonna hook you up with everything you need to know about spring break Panama City Beach 2023. The last few years have been absolutely crazy with spring break, one of the largest events on the Florida Panhandle beaches. And because of that, I want to let you guys know that there are some new rules for spring break and what law enforcement is anticipating for this year. As the temperatures warm up, it's finally warm enough to hit up the beaches, and people from Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, all along the Gulf Coast are going to be heading to Panama City Beach, particularly around the end of March. Spring break will vary from city to city, but in Florida, a lot of these beach towns like Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, and Panama City Beach all have a time of the year when the kids are going back to school and they go to the beach one last time to party. But undoubtedly, the largest party is definitely Panama City Beach, located on Florida's Panhandle. Florida's relaxed stance during the COVID lockdowns means that new people that had never been to this part of the country came for the first time, and they brought with them a lot of problems. Law enforcement wants you to know that some of the buffoonery that has taken place in the last few years is not going to be allowed anymore, and if you come to Panama City Beach to act a fool, they will find you a husband in a Florida county jail. Every year, thousands of people get arrested during these events, and 2023 will be no exception. A lot of people can't resist the urge to get a husband in jail since their squatted truck couldn't pull any girls on the streets. Other people will be coming to Panama City Beach with the sole purpose of making sure that they get arrested. The vast majority of people are going to have a great time and enjoy Florida beaches right before going off to school, but others cannot resist the temptation of meeting their new husband in a Florida jail. And the state of Florida has over the last few years had to implement new rules to deal with some of the things going on along the Florida Panhandle beaches. These are statewide regulations like the ban on loud music. Likely this ban came from places like Daytona, Panama City Beach, and Pensacola, but it's now being legally implemented throughout the entire state. Thankfully for us here in South Florida, rules like that go pretty much unenforced. These laws are mostly aimed at stopping some of the craziness along these Panhandle beach towns. But what makes the Florida Panhandle different is the types of tourists that go there. South Florida attracts tourists from the Northeast. They're a little bit more educated. The problem with Panama City Beach is that you have adjacent states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas, and these people just don't know how to behave. These states have some of the highest crime rates in the entire country, and when they come to Florida to party, they bring their crime rate with them. Florida is a state that's really lenient when it comes to law enforcement because the people here know how to behave, and even a lot of law enforcement officers will see things that would probably be illegal in Florida, but they look the other way because everybody's just trying to have a good time, and law enforcement is mostly there for decoration. Unfortunately, with some of the fools that come from Montgomery and Birmingham, laws like that don't work. These people are uncivilized and better suited for a cage than for a beach. And it's interesting that over the last few years, people will come to do things in Florida that they sure as crap won't do back in their hometown. Police officers in Dothan, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia aren't as lenient as those here in Florida. But it seems that the fact that for the most part law enforcement in Florida is pretty cool hasn't prevented people from other states coming over here and taking advantage of these lenient restrictions. Let's be fair, some of the adjacent states might have some of the most ridiculous crime rates, but their law enforcement is also extremely strict. And that's led a lot of people to believe that if they come to Florida, they can do whatever the crap they want. And to a degree, it's true. Take Miami Beach, for example. It's not legal in Florida, but it's the only thing you can smell in Miami Beach. But law enforcement has had enough with some of the behavior that's been happening lately because it's been too much. Things like the quote-unquote takeovers where vehicles block the roads and do burnouts are not going to be accepted in Florida, especially along tourist destinations. These crazy illegal events have grown popularity in places like Houston, Miami, Atlanta, but along Florida's beach towns, this type of behavior is not going to be tolerated. So basically, yes, we are going to have a good time in Florida, but some of the behavior that people are bringing here from other states is a little bit more than we're going to welcome. People from South Florida rarely venture into the Florida Panhandle beaches, and these are two culturally distinct places. The Florida Panhandle drawing from the deep south, and South Florida more of a Caribbean vibe. These are two completely different places in the same state, but with red tide being a huge concern in Southwest Florida, a lot of people from South Florida may find themselves going to Panama City Beach for the first time this spring. And after Hurricane Michael destroyed Panama City Beach, a lot of people that usually go to Panama City Beach switched over to Daytona, Orlando, Sarasota, and people in South Florida got to see some of the wild crap that people from other states think is acceptable in Florida. So between hurricanes destroying parts of the Florida Panhandle and Southwest Florida, and red tide right now all over Southwest Florida, we're now having a situation where people who normally go to Panama City Beach may go to other parts of Florida, and people that go to South Florida may actually end up in Panama City Beach. And I think this is a really cool thing because the cultures of these two places are so different and unique. Take Fort Myers Beach, which was annihilated by Hurricane Ian. Fort Myers Beach used to be a huge spring break destination, but the people that live in Fort Myers in Southwest Florida rarely go to these events. It's mostly a tourist-supported environment. I think in all my years living in Southwest Florida, I may have just one time gone to Fort Myers Beach during spring break. The traffic alone would make it unattractive, but these places are now not so much centered around the place, but the activity, the vibe, and the environment. Further west of Panama City Beach are places like Seaside and Rosemary Beach and Destin, which have a great party vibe, but it's just a little bit more toned down and relaxed. A little bit more elegant, you could say. During the takeover, which made national news, a lot of the people that were arrested happened to be from Montgomery, Alabama. One of the biggest problems that Florida has is that the laws in Alabama are different, and the people that come from Alabama think that the laws in Florida are the same. For example, in Alabama, you don't need a permit to open carry or to even concealed carry now. Florida has a much lower murder rate, and it seems ridiculous that the state of Florida is now modeling their gun laws to cater to tourists from Alabama when Alabama's gun laws have clearly failed. There's been this huge push lately to make Florida be more like the Deep South when it comes to laws and regulations, but Florida doesn't have ridiculous murder rates. Florida doesn't have horrible crime rates. Why would you model a state that's better for a state that's crappier only to appeal to people moving to the state or to accommodate tourists from states that have laws that don't work? And it seems like the approach of the state of Florida of catering to the tourism and catering to the people who are moving to the state completely ignores the logic that Florida's a state that has relatively low crime rates compared to all the surrounding states. And that's even considering that Florida, for the most part, doesn't have equal opportunities for employment and income, and Florida also has much higher cost of living, which means that it's even harder to live here in Florida than in other states, and even then, the people still know how to behave. So it's interesting to see how the things that are happening along these Florida beach destinations every year have statewide legal implications with new laws and restrictions, many times on a state level, to address the things that happen in these beach towns and spring breaks. For people who are only here for part of the year, it makes no sense for us, the residents of Florida, that now we have to deal with laws that aren't even intended for us. They're intended for the people that come here from other places. In effect, what made Florida go wild after coronavirus lockdowns was the fact that the state of Florida was lenient while other states were strict, and that brought people here to act a fool. It was the state of Florida's regulations that made a perfect scenario for all this crap to go down. So it's interesting to see how all these new laws and regulations that are going to be tried to be implemented during Panama City Beach this year are going to actually in practice unfold. Since at the end of the day, the people that are coming here to Florida consider our criminal system, our law enforcement, and our prisons to be a walk in the park compared to what they have back home. And for them to taunt law enforcement or to disregard these rules is going to come to them naturally. If you're from South Florida and you've never gone to the Florida Panhandle beaches, perhaps spring break will give you an opportunity to see this place in its full potential. A lot of people in South Florida consider going to the Panhandle beaches a waste of time because after all, we have beaches in South Florida, so why would we go to another part of the state to enjoy their beaches when we have our own? But I'll tell you this, with the red tide, most of Southwest Florida right now in practice doesn't have any beaches. Most of our beach destinations like Naples, Bonita Springs, Fort Myers Beach were destroyed by Hurricane Ian. So maybe this year, 2023, a lot of people from Southwest Florida can hop on over to the Florida Panhandle and see that their beaches are clear throughout the entire year. Their culture and their vibes are very distinct from ours. And find out that some people from Alabama are so uncouth that they'll go to the beach wearing camouflage. In Panama City Beach, these are the new regulations. No drinks on the beach during the month of March. Can't sell drinks after 2 a.m. No loitering in parking lots or on the side of the road. The problem with that is that there really are not places to hang out in Panama City Beach, so that's going to be very interesting. No consumption in public, parking lots, or in vehicles. I guess you can still do it from your hotel balcony. No standing on the exterior of vehicles or leaning out the windows. This is a new phenomenon that's taken place where people lean out of vehicles or out of the sunroof and do a donut on the middle of the road while blasting Kodak Black or T Grizzly. This is a huge problem in places like Louisville and Detroit and other cities where people are acting a complete fool. It's not welcome here in Florida. And the rest of the rules are things like you would almost expect to. They're already rules. Like you're not supposed to have illicit stuff. Loud music, I think they're going to be lenient during some parts of the day. But there comes a point where the loud music, like at 2 in the morning, I'm pretty sure you're going to get busted for that. This has been a problem also in South Florida. But at the end of the day, when people go to Florida beaches, they're going to play loud music. Especially during events like spring break. That's kind of difficult to really enforce. So there it is. That's everything you need to know about spring break, Panama City Beach. The vast majority of people will go there to have a great time. A few people will go there to cause trouble because they've had too much to drink and can't handle themselves. They're from Montgomery, Alabama and don't know how to behave. Or they really miss their husband in prison. These people from the deep south just don't understand that you can go to the beach and have a nice time without having to stand on your car. Prices along Panhandle beaches for hotels are also much more affordable than South Florida. Take Marco Island, where a hotel stay now in the winter at a Marriott is approaching $1,000, even though the beach outside is littered with dead fish from the red tide. Who would be willing to pay $1,000 to go to Marco Island and smell dead fish? I've already talked to a few people in South Florida who've been asking me, they're getting curious about visiting North Florida during the spring to get a break from the red tide and be able to actually enjoy beaches. It's a totally different vibe, much different than what you're used to. Here in South Florida, it's about luxury vehicles, mellow music, and Caribbean food. Along the Florida Panhandle, it's jacked up lifted pickups with Jason Aldean blasting. And the same thing, if you're used to going to Panama City Beach, I encourage you at some point to also come down to Miami and see a different scenario. Our food's a lot better. I've yet to discover a single restaurant along Panama City Beach that's actually worth going to. So it seems like if you come to South Florida, the culture, the food, the vibes are more genuine and authentic. Where when you go into Panama City Beach, it seems like the food really sucks. They're two completely different worlds, but they're both authentically part of Florida. and the fabric of our beaches and our party scene. And then it gets a little wilder in Panama City Beach as well, but this is a family-friendly channel, so we'll leave it at that. I'd be curious to know, a lot of people that go to Panama City Beach, if they're aware that in Miami Beach, which is what we're looking at here, the smell of smoke fills the air. It's not legal in Florida, but law enforcement doesn't care. If you like to swing, you'll have partners to do that with. The only thing that law enforcement in Miami Beach is really looking out for is if you park in the wrong place, you will get a ticket. But they are definitely more lenient on some of the activities that you're looking to do in Panama City Beach. Over the years, Miami Beach has just allowed the smoking and just all of the wild crap that people in Panama City Beach are trying to fight back against. So if you really want to go to a wild place, consider Miami Beach at night. Of course, a lot of people that go to Panama City Beach to act a fool don't act a fool back home where they're from. They'll be quick to find that in Miami Beach, they're going to find somebody willing to swing a lot quicker than they will back in Panama. But it's a completely different scene. In Miami Beach, the smell of smoke is everywhere. Every night you see people swinging. It's just a little bit more chaotic, wild, and uncontrolled. And a lot of times I've been in Miami Beach and seen people swinging, people smoking, and law enforcement 10 feet away just giving people parking tickets. But again, these are completely different types of cities. A lot of people that go to Panama City Beach are afraid to go to Miami Beach, but some of the behavior they like to engage in would probably be more fitting in Miami Beach. And a lot of people from South Florida would think, why would we go all the way to Panama City Beach when we have our own beaches here? But if you've never done that line cross, like if you're used to going to Panama City Beach, go to Miami Beach one year and see what that's about. And vice versa. If you're from South Florida, check out Panama City Beach. It's a totally different world. Of course, going to Miami Beach is yellow Lamborghini money, not squatted truck money. Hotels are more expensive. Everything is more expensive, including parking if you can even find it. Have you ever been to spring break in Panama City Beach? Let me know in the comments section what it was like for you. Personally, I like Miami Beach less and Panama City Beach more because the smell of smoke in Miami Beach is not really my thing. Just driving through there, you can pick up mood-altering feelings even though you're not the one that's doing it, and I don't like that. But it is interesting how in Miami Beach, so many of these things that are illegal, not really supposed to be happening in Florida, can happen so openly and so just, it's not even a problem, but then park in the wrong place and find out. Honestly though, if you're from like Birmingham, Montgomery, you just want to go do some wild crap, probably Panama City Beach may not be the spot for you. I would definitely recommend Miami Beach. More wild, more lit. You're not going to do burnouts in the middle. I don't think they'll allow that in Miami Beach for sure. But at least, you know, some of the other stuff you're into may be a little bit more lenient, like blasting loud music or, you know, acting a fool. They might be more lenient towards that type of behavior in Miami Beach. Panama City Beach just doesn't want to cater to that.